on the border with Germany on vacation. She used to take me to her parents to show me off. And my aunts send even a picture, but my mother and I are dressed in the same dresses. Can you imagine? When we came back, when things quietened down, so you thought that, look, things happened and everything will be okay. It was not. Jews, proclamations came out, and Jews were singled out immediately. As long as you had Jewish blood, you were considered an undesirable, a subhuman. And the Kaunas ghetto orders came out that you had to leave everything, only things that you can carry, and you're being resettled in Slabotka, that was a small suburb, very run down. They had a big learning center there, a yeshiva, but it was run down. It was not like this cosmopolitan city where you had everything. 4 or 5 families in a room, in a little house, very, very, very crowded. They gave us a couple of months to do it, I don't remember, and you had to take with things that you can carry, made in a suitcase, in a wheelbarrow, a baby carriage, that's all. My most prized possession was a Shirley Temple doll that my aunt in New Rochelle sent me for my 5th birthday, July 1939, before the war. It was my very prized possession. Everybody envied me, because I'll tell you, it was a better looking than Montana and better looking than Barbie. My mother, I remember, it's like, don't remember what I ate yesterday, but I remember things that boggles the mind. She kept on pushing. I had very nice clothes, one dress on top of another, a coat. I had a seal coat on top of me. We came into the ghetto, and as I said, very, very crowded. And the first thing was hunger. But in the ghetto, you can still find people who left over maybe a potato or a carrot. You can still find something extra. No stores. You were given rations. But you still can maybe scrounge around or barter with somebody, because you can still move around. It was a ghetto, although surrounded with barbed wire. You couldn't go out unless on work detail. And now I'm going to tell you, and I know that you'll forgive me for not encouraging her to speak the first heroic deed of my mother. We had to wear a yellow Star of David. You were shot if you were caught without it. My mother used to cover her Star of David, take some of her prized possessions, and knock on doors of her friends, people that knew her, because she was a big shot in the hospital, and get for our stuff food. If she would have been caught, she would have been shot. The people that she dealt with would have been shot. No judge, no jury, shot right away. But she was maybe 4'10", maybe 115 pounds, soaking wet. Like, wow, the will of a giant. And life went on, and you thought maybe tomorrow will be better. No books, we weren't allowed. I used to hide with my friends, being an only child. Maybe tomorrow will be better. Maybe tomorrow we'll have more food. Because you have to understand, you were always hungry. Hunger was your permanent friend, hunger. Now, how I met is Yamach Shemo, Helmut Rauka. Orders again. That they were going to see, don't forget, people were dying, so they wanted to know, on the pretext of taking census, you had to walk out with a designated place, and this man, he was the commandant, he was in charge of the Jewish question, and he was so notorious that he was labeled the butcher. And I met somebody much older than me and even remembered that that was his title. He was labeled the butcher because he did not like people who looked disheveled, who didn't look all right. If he didn't like you, on the pretext of something that you didn't even do, you could be shot. Now, how did I meet him? You had to walk out, leave your door open where you lived, where you stayed, so they can see that everybody is there on Democracy Square. And they were going to count, take census, and see how many people in the ghetto so they can give us more food. My grandparents, my father's young sister, who was a student in the university, my mother, my father, and me. I remember that you didn't know what was happening. You only saw him standing on a mound with a whip, a dog, and white gloves. To this day, I don't own a pair of white gloves. And I can remember one thing, being so scared, and I had to go to the bathroom. And do I go? Do I stay? And here's my stomach turning, and I tell my mother that I gotta go, but here are people in front of you, and you had to walk, and you had to go, and you had to be in line, and you didn't want to disturb anybody, and you didn't want to maybe antagonize anybody, because you were scared. I don't even remember if I went to the bathroom or not. And as you walked in front of him, very methodically, with his whip, one side and another side, without rhyme or reason, my young aunt and my grandfather to one side, my mother, my grandmother, and me and my father to the other side. They went to the right. All the people, they didn't look, but they can maybe be useful. Their side was bad. Our side was good. And it was done so methodically. Why didn't anybody, I don't remember, like start something, or because you didn't know. You didn't know what was really happening. At night, we saw the multitude, because we were in a valley. We had a lot of forts in Kaunas. It's from the Tsar's time that they built forts. And it is documented, in fact, in Berlin, that all those 10,500 people were marched to their death on the 9th fort. And he was instrumental to having pits dug, and all those people were killed, were finished in one day. And we went back to the ghetto, and people have asked, how do you go on? But you have to understand, I still had my mother and my father, and my grandmother. We were still a unit, and I still had friends. And again, life went on. People went to work detail, you have to understand, slave labor. And they needed people to build the aerodrome. What? I don't know. And I'm going to tell you of a miracle. How come I'm standing here? And how come I could say in Auschwitz, aha, you didn't get me. My grandmother, my father, and I were taken to our first labor camp. The men used to go out every day with my mother, she as being the nurse, in case somebody is hurt, don't forget slave labor. And my friends, because a lot, young families were picked.